It's a lovely fall day in the little town of Mayville. Little Susie Johnson is out riding her tricycle, as she did every other day. Her little wheels leaving a trail of orange October leaves behind her. Down the street, two of the neighborhood 12-year-olds, Dustin James and Charles Peterson, are playing basketball. But you see, the two boys had a problem. The two of them stood on the edge of the curb, looking over an overrun lawn, its rows of dead and barren trees flanking a dark, looming, dilapidated house. Out front, two handcrafted wooden signs gave a warning. Beware. Keep away. DJ watched and waited. Nothing had happened. He knew this was his chance, as he made a sudden dash for the ball. He looks up. The front door is open. It wasn't open before. From out of the shadows steps a man with a look on his face of absolute disgust. The man charges, his arms outstretched as he tries to grab DJ, the boy barely managing to dodge as he frantically scrambles away. Charles can only watch on in horror as the man grabs his friend, DJ, hoisting the 12-year-old into the air. At this moment, a look of horror comes across DJ's face as he realizes that this might be his final moments. But then, something inexplainable happens. The old man dies. This is the beginning of the 2006 animated film Monster House, which is probably the most underrated Halloween movie ever. Monster House is the story of three tween friends who investigate a possessed house. Monster House is the story of a group of tweens coming to terms with their growth to young adulthood. Monster House is the story of how a World War II veteran saved and married a giantess woman from a circus who accidentally died in the construction of their home, which she has then haunted for the last 45 years. Monster House is a computer-animated Halloween comedy film directed by Gil Kinnan in his directional debut, the film releasing in the summer of 2006, which, I always thought was kind of strange for a Halloween film to be released in the summer. The film had a budget of nearly $75 million, which I imagine was mostly spent on the combined use of live-action motion capture animation, as well as on the paychecks for its surprisingly star-studded cast. This film features Maggie Gyllenhaal, Kevin James, Nick Cannon, Jason Lee, Catherine O'Hara, Steve Buscemi, and John Heder. And the crazy thing is, these are just the supporting actors. The film's story and screenplay were written by Rob Schraub, Pamela Petler, and Dan Harmon. Dan Harmon, creator of the show Community and co-creator of a little animated show called Rick and Morty.
I'm Pickle Rick!
Yeah, that's the one. Monster House follows a group of three 12-year-olds on their hunt to discover the secrets of a strange house belonging to an old, angry recluse named Mr. Nevercracker. Our main protag, DJ, is voice acted by Mitchell Musso. DJ is a rather odd 12-year-old boy who has spent the last year documenting the strange behavior of his old, angry neighbor, Horace Nevercracker. The film opens as we follow the perspective of a recently fallen autumn leaf that is swept up by a little girl riding her tricycle. The girl goes barreling across the sidewalk, singing to herself as she rides, until suddenly, she's stuck. Something, though, is wrong. She continues to pedal, but the tricycle is unmoving. The music begins to shift, and quickly she looks up, a look of fear beginning to spread across her face. The camera turns, and it's then we see it, the old, dilapidated house of Mr. Nevercracker. The little girl's eyes open wide as the doorknob begins to turn, writhing and reeling until finally it is flung open. Inside the house, an abyss of blackness, but emerging from the blackness, two piercing eyes. The elderly man bursts from the house, rushing the girl. All the while, he's screaming at her in anger. She runs, but not before turning back for one last look at her precious tricycle, as the elderly man with a face full of fury and spite destroys the little girl's bike. The man in an angry fury stomps back towards his home. As he turns, our camera zooms out across the street into the bedroom of our young protagonist, DJ, who just watched this entire encounter. We learn that this is a relatively regular occurrence for Old Man Nevercracker, who claims any child's toy that would land on his property and then verbally assaults anyone who would step near his house. DJ is joined in his adventures by his best friend, our second main character and cast of three, Charles, or better known as Chowder, voice acted by Sam Lerner. Chowder is your average goofy, dorky, slightly pudgy 12-year-old and the primary source of comic relief in this movie, and goddamn is he by far the funniest character in a movie full of hilarious character.
Then that must be the uvula.
Oh, so it's a girl house.
What?
Finally, our trio of tweens is rounded out by the smart and prep school going Ginny, voice acted by Spencer Locke, who acts as the voice of reason for our two knucklehead boys. As well, she is the primary love interest for these two dorks who are beginning to realize that they're into girls. The story really kicks off after Mr. Nebercracker, voice acted by Steve Buscemi, suffers a heart attack in his confrontation with DJ and Chowder. DJ returning across the street to his home where he is greeted by his babysitter, Z, short for Elizabeth, voice acted by Maggie Gyllenhaal, as DJ's parents are out of town for the next few days. As I said earlier, one of the core themes of this movie is this concept of growing up, this transition that happens into young adulthood. This theme is brought to the forefront with the introduction of Z, this 17-year-old girl who puts on this facade of this pink-loving girl next door type vibe only for adults. In reality though, she is a grungy, van-wearing, punk rock jamming, rebel against authority type girl who uses her job as a babysitter to basically party in people's homes. There's this really interesting scene here which I think really illustrates the struggle of young adulthood and how our characters are caught between growing up, wanting to be adults, to be respected, but while still being treated as little kids. Notice how they have her and DJ at eye level, the idea seemingly being to show that in DJ's mind they are on the same level as adults, the same level of respect, only for Z to absolutely shatter this idea.
DJ, why'd you break that?
But I didn't.
Yeah, let me ask you something. Who are they gonna believe? Go to your room.
DJ returns to his room deflated. We see him lay down and grab his favorite stuffed animal for comfort, a symbol of his childhood. While menacingly at the center of the frame, we see the dilapidated house of Mr. Nebercracker as a shadow slowly creeps into DJ's room. Later that night, DJ is woken, and we are introduced to a new character, Z's sleazy burnout boyfriend, who refers to himself as Bones, voice acted by Jason Lee. Bones is yet another character who reaffirms this reality that yes, DJ is still a child.
I think she's having trouble breathing. She might have something in her throat. All right, I'll look into it.
I'm not gonna lie, even to this day, this scene to me is just emotionally brutal and just like really cruel. It's almost like seeing a kid watch the physical manifestation of his childhood be torn apart in front of him, almost as if the destruction of DJ's doll here, this piece of comfort from his childhood, symbolizes the death of said childhood and this transition to adulthood. Either way, I'm just gonna say it. Fuck you, Bones. Real quick, I just want to applaud this movie for its like absurd attention to detail and in its character work. I mean, this guy right here just screams metalhead high school burnout, from his greasy hair to his jean jacket and even his Doc Martens. This movie is littered with all sorts of animated details, whether it's the doodles on the side of DJ's notebook or even the use of a 70s Polaroid camera like these ones I have right here. All these little things that just really capture the mid-80s vibe so well for this movie. In fact, Ed Verreau, the production designer for Monster House, even visited the neighborhood set of the show Desperate Housewives for inspiration for DJ's neighborhood, as well as the home in the Hitchcock movie Psycho, which the Monster House seems obviously inspired by. Monster House was animated by Sony Pictures company Imageworks, a digital and visual effects company that has done effects and animation for the likes of The Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, and an ass ton of superhero movies. Surprisingly though, Monster House was the company's first computer animated film, as well interestingly, all of the human characters were animated using motion capture, something that is utilized in animation everywhere today, but was just beginning to make its way into animated films at this time in 2006. It makes sense why Sony would want to use this motion capture, as they've become masters of it, like in their works for Lord of the Rings and the creation of Gollum. Besides the movie's amazing attention to detail, this movie might also be one of the funniest kids movies ever.
DJ? You pee in bottles?
Seriously, this movie had me laughing consistently, even now 17 years later. Much of this can be attributed to the writing and comedy of Dan Harmon, Monster House being a kind of early, somewhat more childhood-friendly version of the humor that we would later become very familiar with. Within a few years later, he would create Community as well as Rick and Morty. And yes, before you write in the comments down below, I know that there are some problems around Dan Harmon, as there seem to be with basically anyone who works in Hollywood. Regardless though, it's undeniable that Harmon, despite his many flaws as a human, is a master of comedy. Much of the said comedy for Monster House comes from our side characters, most notably Chowder. Chowder is this 12-year-old goofy, awkward kid who doesn't seem to take anything seriously. Despite being 12, for much of the movie, Chowder acts like a even younger kid, being silly and doing these goofy things. I mean, he literally wears a cape for the entire movie. Chowder in many ways symbolizes one half of the battle of young adulthood, the fight between your previous existence as a kid while wanting to be taken seriously as a young adult as you progressively grow older. Chowder is one of the funniest characters in this movie, if not the funniest. Basically every scene there is at least one joke or punchline that he is a part of. There's this scene here early on in the movie, the boys having dealt with the trauma of Mr. Nevercracker having a heart attack, believing his house to be haunted by his spirit, and have stayed up all night observing it. The next morning, DJ's babysitter enters the room, waking them.
Hey, DJ, I brought you some chocolate.
This stupid fucking hiss, man, it kills me every time. Like, he's this little vampire or this little creature of the night, this little nerd that has not felt the warmth of sunlight in a millennia. I don't know why it's so funny, but this shit has me laugh every time.
I'm a murderer.
No, you're not. When it's an accident, they call it manslaughter.
Chowder, despite being the main source of comedy in the movie, is actually a rather tragic character. Throughout the movie, we see Chowder a lot, but what we never see are his parents. Both of them are referenced a few times. Chowder's father owns and runs a local pharmacy, a fact that will become important towards the climax of the film when DJ pressures him to steal cold medicine from his dad's pharmacy. Chowder's mom, on the other hand, is only mentioned one time in the film that I could specifically find, maybe twice.
Where are your parents?
My dad's at the pharmacy and my mom's at the movies with her personal trainer.
This is one of those cheeky adult Dan Harmon lines hidden deep within this movie, a joke that definitely went over my head as a kid. But from this joke, we learn that Chowder's mother is having an affair with her personal trainer. From what little information we get, we can assume that Chowder probably does not have the best home life. A busy father running a small business, a parents with seemingly an unhappy marriage, a mother who does not seem to be around that much and actively cheats on her husband. I mean, literally this kid seems to be able to do whatever he wants without any parent supervision or his parents even seemingly caring. Early on in the movie, DJ and Chowder meet up in a construction zone in the middle of the night in this neighborhood. DJ's parents we know are out of town at a convention, and obviously his babysitter doesn't care, but isn't it kind of telling about Chowder as a young person and his relationship with his parents when the first place we see him is playing on a construction equipment in the middle of the night?
Try and relax. Be cool like me.
As I said before, this film explores a couple of key themes, the first being this transition from young adulthood, the fight between your child self and your newly forming adult self, this idea of having to give up part of your younger self as you get older, maybe in the way you act, the things you do, or the things that you like. It's funny though, because while DJ and Chowder grapple with coming into adulthood, the actual adults in the film are all complete idiots. We've already mentioned Z, the selfish punk girl babysitter, and her boyfriend Bones, the high school burnout. DJ's parents appear briefly in the beginning of the film and are equally as clueless. As well, there's two small-town dorky cops, Officer Landers, voiced by Kevin James, and Officer Lister, voiced by Nick Cannon. Both of these cops refusing to take DJ and Chowder's claims that the house is haunted seriously, until it's too late. And finally, our last adult character, who's easily my favorite, Reginald Skull Skolinski, played by John Heater. To these 12-year-olds, Skull is a legend, a master gamer. Skull once played for 4 days straight on 1/4 and a gallon of chocolate milk and a diaper.
The man's a legend.
To these kids, Skull is an absolute legend, a god of gaming, the epitome of cool, and the man who they go to receive answers.
He's the smartest guy on earth.
In reality though, Skull, like all the other adults, is a complete idiot. I mean, he's the stereotypical archetype of a basement-dwelling nerd, yet to his credit, he really is the only adult who takes these kids seriously. Ironically, they as children are the only ones capable of seeing the danger of the house and are actually willing to act and do something about it. This brings me to the final, and in my opinion, most important character in the story of Monster House, Horace Nebercracker. So far we know Mr. Nebercracker as this angry, senile, crotchety old man. Nebercracker is in many ways the stereotypical get off my lawn old man in media, but yet a man plagued by something more sinister. In the opening scenes, we see Nebercracker confront a small girl on his lawn, but he does so in such a way that's truly chilling. Besides the uncomfortable optics of watching a surprisingly physically capable elderly gentleman berate and even physically assault children, there's something more terrifying in his words rather than his actions. Get off my lawn, trespasser. You are dead. You think you can just terrorize my lawn? You want to be a dead person? Do you want to be eaten alive? These are not the words of a man who simply hates people being on his lawn or people disrespecting his property. These are the words of a man who has a dark secret. Throughout most of the film, we as the audience and our main trio of characters are led to believe that it is Nebercracker's spirit who haunts his home after he suffers a heart attack in the opening 10 minutes of the movie. Much later on though, our group of 3 tweens take matters into their own hands, coming up with a rather brilliant plan to use cold medicine to put the house to sleep, so they can venture inside and destroy its heart. This, however, does not go according to plan, and after nearly dying and being vomited up by said house, DJ decides to call it quits, admitting it was stupid of them to have tried to do anything. After all, they're just babies. When suddenly, he's hit by a car. Okay, the car doesn't actually hit him. DJ looks up as a figure exits the vehicle. His face is one of petrified horror, almost as if he's seen a ghost, as emerging from the shadows, Old Man Nebercracker. Earlier in the film, several characters mentioned that Mr. Nebercracker had a wife, Bones saying that it's common knowledge that he killed her and ate her. As well, earlier while exploring Nebercracker's monster house, the group came across a strange cage. Within it lied a cement-covered body of a massive woman. Scattered around her lies old photos, scattered collections of flowers, and heart-shaped boxes. You see, Horace Nebercracker was not always this angry, callous old man. Once he was young and full of life. Horace was an army veteran, having served as a demolitions expert in World War II. Horace was one of the lucky few who managed to return home. One day while passing through a traveling circus, Horace encountered a woman he would grow to love. This is Constance, a giantess who performed in a circus. While many laughed at her, abused her, and hurled fruit at her, Horace only ever had love for the woman. One night, Horace met with Constance and asked her if she wanted to go away from this place. She said yes, and the two fled, starting a life with one another. Constance, though, after years of abuse, had developed a temper, a burning hot anger that would overcome her, as she was still regularly tormented by local children. Sadly, on a fateful Halloween night, that anger would become her downfall. Constance had become enraged after local children began throwing eggs at her. Okay, I mean, to be honest, if someone threw eggs at me, I'd be pretty pissed too. So she takes an axe from Horace and begins wildly swinging at the children. Horace, trying to stop his enraged wife, attempts to take the axe from her. However, tragedy strikes as the giant woman loses her balance. Horace could only watch in horror as she fell down into the deep pit below that had been dug for the foundation of the home that they would live in. The woman forever being entombed in cement in the basement of the home. But while Constance may have died, she didn't leave. Her soul held on, embodying the house with her anger. Horace knew that he had to keep the children away for their own safety, as she would attack anyone who drew near. But in his grief, Horace had finally realized that enough is enough. He must let the past finally rest as he makes the decision to destroy his home, to destroy the last remaining piece of the person he loved, for her sake, for his sake, and for the sake of everyone near them. I rewatched this movie in early October of this year, and it really resonated with me in a deeper way than it had really at any other time that I've watched this in my life. I was really surprised at how much I feel like I relate with Horace Nebercracker. Letting go is one of the hardest things mentally that we can do as humans, one of the hardest things that we face in our human lives. Nothing can really prepare you for loss, whether it's the loss of a friend, a family member, a spouse. There was a period of several years where I really let my own personal loss really control me, really affect like every facet of my life. My inability to let go was harming me mentally. It affected me in literally every single way in my life, from how I behaved and interacted in my personal relationships to really just my day-by-day functioning as a human being. As well, I really relate to DJ at times. Even now, in my late 20s, there are times where I still feel like I'm stuck between being an adult, all of these expectations that society, that the world has for me as an adult, and my child brain, this 12-year-old brain of mine that just wants to play video games, hang out with my friends, do all of the fun things that I used to do. It doesn't feel like all of this time has passed. It's almost like my brain has like an inability sometimes to process just how much time has passed. Like I said, I'm in my late 20s, but there are many, many times like lately where it does not feel like I am in my late 20s. It really does feel like, where did all of the time go? Like, what happened? I swear I was just like 15 yesterday. I remember watching this movie when I was 12 and also hardcore relating to DJ, who is, as I said, currently undergoing this process, this transition into young adulthood. And it is funny, kind of almost wild even, that all of these years later, I still feel the same relation to DJ. It doesn't get any easier. Adulthood, it's just oftentimes really hard. Monster House is the story of 3 tween friends who investigated a possessed house. Monster House is the story of a group of friends coming to terms with their growth into young adulthood. Monster House is a story of love and loss, and how sometimes the best decisions are the hardest ones. Monster House is the most underrated Halloween film ever. Friends, supporters, fellow internet nerds, thank you all so much for continuing to watch my videos. If you did enjoy this video or you learned something new, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as this engagement really does help the channel out and helps us continue to grow. I just want to give a big shout out, a big thanks to legendary Giga YouTuber Super Eye Patch Wolf. Without his work and his videos, I don't think I ever could have found the inspiration inside of me to make these kind of longer video essay-esque deep dives into media. So I just want to say big shout outs to you, Super Eye Patch Wolf. Thank you for being a continued inspiration to me and for inspiring me to make videos like this. Once again, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. These types of videos take a lot longer for me to make, as I do everything. I script the videos, I record them, I edit them, I make the thumbnails, I do everything. These types of videos take, well over a month for me to make. I would have loved to release this during Halloween, but it just wasn't feasibly possible. So if you do enjoy the video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Go ahead and click some of the videos on screen now if you enjoyed this type of content. And as always, guys, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace, love, Adu.